I want to have a one-night stand with my ex as my birthday gift. If you can't take it, then leave. Those were the words Kendra told her husband, while staring him in the eyes. Matt thought it was a cruel joke, until she packed her bags the next morning. What followed wasn't just a breakup. It was the slow unraveling of a woman who thought she knew what freedom meant. Viewers, what would you do if your spouse asked for something like this? Would you walk away or fight to save the marriage? Let's hear your thoughts. Matt blinked twice, unsure if he'd heard her right. His wife of 4 years, the mother of his 2 children, sat across from him at their dining table, her eyes sparkling with the same confidence that once made him fall in love. Only now, that confidence felt like arrogance. "Kendra," he said slowly. "You're joking, right?" She laughed. A short, dry laugh. "I'm serious, Matt. I'm turning 30. I've given you 4 years of loyalty, 2 pregnancies, and a home. I just want one night of freedom. One night to remember who I was before all this." She gestured around, the house, the toys, the laundry basket by the door, like they were evidence of a prison. Matt leaned back in his chair, staring at her. "You think freedom means sleeping with your ex?" "It's not about what you think," she snapped. "It's about me. Evan understood me, my passion, my dreams. With him I felt alive. With you." She sighed. "I feel like I'm slowly disappearing." The room fell silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. Their little boy's laughter echoed faintly from upstairs, a reminder that this wasn't just about 2 adults, but a family. Matt didn't shout. He didn't argue. He just said quietly, "If that's what you want, Kendra, you're free to have it." That calmness unsettled her. She expected anger, maybe even tears, but the stillness in his voice made her nervous. She mistook it for weakness. "Good," she said, forcing a smile. "I'm glad you understand. This is about honesty, Matt. I don't want to hide what I feel." He nodded once. "Honesty is good." Then he stood up, placed his phone on the table, and walked away. For the next few days, Matt acted normal, making breakfast, taking the kids to school, coming home early. But something in his eyes had changed. They were quieter, darker, like a man watching the world burn in silence. On the night before her birthday, Kendra stood in front of the mirror, admiring her reflection. She looked radiant, confident, bold, unshaken. She told herself this night would give her closure. She convinced herself Matt would understand eventually. But if she'd looked closer, she might have noticed the faint shadow of guilt behind her smile, or the way Matt's car keys weren't on the shelf anymore. Because while Kendra was planning her freedom, Matt was planning something else entirely. Kendra's birthday arrived with sunlight streaming through her bedroom curtains, but her heart felt heavy with anticipation. The message from Evan had come the night before. "I booked the hotel. Just us. One last night like old times." She read it again that morning, smiling faintly, ignoring the unease in her chest. This was supposed to be exciting, liberating. Yet something about Matt's quiet acceptance haunted her. He hadn't mentioned her gift again. He'd simply kissed her on the forehead that morning, handed her a cup of coffee, and whispered, "Happy birthday, Kendra." His tone was gentle, but his eyes were unreadable. She looked at him, unsure whether to feel relieved or guilty. "Thanks," she said softly. By evening, Matt had taken the kids to his mother's house, saying they'd spend the night there. "You deserve a peaceful birthday," he told her. She nodded, pretending that peace was what she wanted. When the clock struck 8, Kendra stood in front of her mirror again. Red dress, soft curls, perfect lipstick. She looked beautiful, but her hands trembled slightly. Just one night, she told herself. Just one night of honesty. Evan arrived in a sleek black car, looking exactly as she remembered, confident, charming, dangerous. "Wow," he said, eyes running over her. "You look even better than you did in college." She laughed, feeling 21 again. They drove through the city lights, the hum of the highway drowning out the small voice in her head asking, What if you're making a mistake? The hotel was luxurious. Marble floors, soft lighting, a chilled bottle of champagne waiting by the bed. For a few hours, Kendra let herself forget. They talked, reminisced, laughed about the past. It felt like old times, except it wasn't. They weren't two young lovers chasing dreams anymore. She was a wife, a mother, standing in a moment that could destroy everything. But she pushed the thought away. "Tonight," she whispered, "I'm free." As midnight approached, Evan kissed her forehead. "You know this won't change anything, right?" he said softly. "We both have our lives now." She smiled, hiding the sting in her chest. "I know. It's not about changing anything. It's just about remembering." When dawn broke, Kendra slipped out of the hotel room quietly, smiling faintly at the sunrise. She felt a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness, like she had closed a chapter of her life. But as she drove home, a different kind of silence greeted her. The driveway was empty. No car, no sound, no laughter. Inside, the house looked too clean. The toys were gone, the family pictures missing. Only one thing sat on the dining table, a birthday card with her name on it. Her hands trembled as she opened it. "Happy birthday, Kendra. You said I could leave, so I did. Don't bother looking for us." The cup in her hand dropped to the floor, shattering. Her freedom had just begun to cost her everything. Kendra stood frozen, the birthday card trembling in her hands. Her eyes darted around the room, scanning for signs that this was a joke, maybe a cruel prank or some dramatic statement. But the more she looked, the more she saw the truth staring back at her. Matt hadn't just left. He had erased himself. The closets were empty, his clothes gone, his shoes missing from the rack. The children's toys that used to clutter the living room were nowhere in sight. Even the family portrait that hung above the fireplace had vanished, leaving behind faint outlines of where it once was. "Matt?" she called out, her voice echoing through the silence. No answer. She rushed upstairs, throwing open the bedroom door. The bed was neatly made, but his side looked untouched. Too neat, too deliberate. She checked the kids' rooms. Empty. Their little beds stripped bare, their favorite stuffed animals gone. Panic hit her chest like a wave. She grabbed her phone, dialing his number with shaking fingers. "The number you are trying to reach is not available at the moment." She tried again. And again. Voicemail every time. Her heart pounded. She ran to her laptop, opening their joint bank account. Access denied. She tried her credit cards. Declined. Every single one. Then she checked the house lease document on her email. Her name wasn't on it, just Matt's. Her legs gave out, and she sank to the floor, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. It wasn't supposed to be like this. She didn't want to lose him. She just wanted to find herself. She replayed the night in her head, Evan's laughter, the champagne, the soft glow of hotel lights. It all felt meaningless now, like a dream that had turned into a nightmare. She called Evan, desperate for comfort, but he didn't pick up. On the fifth try, he finally answered, his tone clipped. "Kendra, listen. I think it's best if we don't talk for a while," he said quietly. "Your husband reached out to me last night." Her breath caught. What? "He told me you made your choice, and honestly, I don't want to get in the middle of your marriage. I didn't sign up for this drama." Before she could respond, he hung up. Kendra sat there on the cold tile floor, clutching her phone like it could save her. But it couldn't. That night she lay in their empty bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The silence of the house screamed louder than any argument they'd ever had. Somewhere out there, Matt was with their children, safe, calm, and done with her. And for the first time, Kendra realized that when a man stops talking, that's when he's truly gone. The next morning, Kendra woke up to a quiet house that no longer felt like home. Her reflection in the mirror scared her. Smudged mascara, swollen eyes, and a hollow expression that didn't belong to the confident woman she once was. She grabbed her phone again, dialing Matt's number over and over. Still voicemail. Desperation turned to anger. "You can't just leave like this," she screamed at the silence. "You can't take my kids and disappear." But he already had. By noon, she was driving to his office, her hands trembling on the steering wheel. The receptionist, who had always greeted her with a smile, looked uneasy. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Lewis," she said carefully. "Matt took a leave of absence last week. Indefinite." Kendra froze. Last week? He planned this? The woman's silence said it all. Outside, Kendra sat in her car for nearly 10 minutes, staring blankly ahead. The weight of her own choices was beginning to crush her. She called Diane, her closest friend. "He's gone, Diane. He took the kids, the money, everything." There was a long pause. "Kendra, what did you expect?" Diane said quietly. "You told him you wanted to sleep with your ex. Any man would leave after that." Kendra's voice cracked. "I didn't think he'd actually leave. I thought he'd fight for me, get angry, something. I just wanted him to understand how I felt." Diane sighed. "You didn't want understanding, Kendra. You wanted permission to betray him." The words hit harder than she expected. She hung up without replying. That evening, she drove to Matt's mother's house, a quiet home at the edge of town where the kids often visited. The gate was locked. No lights inside. She pressed the doorbell repeatedly, then shouted, "Claire, please, it's me. I just want to talk." No answer. She sank to her knees, sobbing, as a neighbor peeked out from behind a curtain. Kendra could feel the judgment in the air, the whispers that would soon spread. By the time she got home, the sun had set, and loneliness wrapped around her like a cold blanket. Every corner of the house reminded her of what she'd lost. The laughter, the bedtime stories, the small ordinary moments she once took for granted. She opened her phone again, scrolling through old photos of Matt and the kids, Christmas mornings, beach trips, movie nights. Every smile felt like a wound now. Then, she noticed something. In one of the recent photos taken just a week before her birthday, Matt was smiling, but his eyes weren't. He had already been planning to leave, and she had been too blinded by her own freedom to see it. The following week, Kendra's world began to unravel piece by piece. What started as quiet whispers turned into full-blown gossip. At the cafe she once frequented, people lowered their voices when she walked in. Neighbors stopped waving. Even her co-workers, once friendly, now avoided eye contact. It didn't take long for the story to spread. Kendra Lewis told her husband she wanted to sleep with her ex, and now he's gone. She'd become a cautionary tale. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages, some sympathetic, most judgmental. One even read, "You brought this on yourself." She threw the phone across the couch, tears blurring her vision. Worse still, her financial situation was collapsing. The joint bank account remained inaccessible. Her credit cards were frozen. The rent payment bounced, and when she called the landlord, he reminded her the lease was in Matt's name. "So, what does that mean?" she asked, panic rising in her throat. "It means, Mrs. Lewis, that technically you're a guest in this house. If the main tenant isn't returning, you'll need to vacate within 30 days. Kendra hung up, trembling. She felt like her life was being erased one document at a time. That night, she tried calling Evan again. He didn't answer. On the third day, he finally picked up. "Kendra," he said, voice heavy, "you need to stop calling me. This whole thing, it's gotten out of hand. I didn't think you'd actually go through with it." She bit her lip, her voice breaking. "I thought we had something real, Evan. You said you missed me." He sighed. "I meant as a memory, not as a future. You've got too much baggage now, and honestly, I don't want to be dragged into your mess. I'm seeing someone else." Silence. Then, click. Kendra sat there, phone in hand, listening to the deadline. Her heart sank. The man she'd risked everything for had just shut the door in her face. Days turned into weeks. The house grew emptier. The laughter that once filled it was replaced by the quiet hum of regret. Her family stopped answering her calls. Even her mother's voice on voicemail sounded colder each day. "Kendra, you've made your bed," she said in her last message. "Now you have to lie in it." Bills piled up on the counter. Job performance slipped. Her once glamorous life had reduced to surviving off canned soup and sleepless nights. One evening she stood by the window watching the city lights, so close, yet unreachable. She whispered to herself, was it really freedom I wanted? Or attention? That night she dreamt of Matt tucking the kids into bed, their little hands reaching for him. Not her. When she woke, tears stained her pillow. Her freedom had turned into exile. By the third month, Kendra's once orderly life was unrecognizable. Her car had been repossessed, her job performance dropped so low that her supervisor called her in. "Kendra," he said gently, "you've missed deadlines, meetings, and half your calls. I know you're going through a hard time, but we have to let you go." She nodded silently, too numb to argue. Losing her job was almost merciful. One less thing to pretend she could manage. But deep inside, a fire had begun to burn. The need to fix what she'd broken. That evening, she sat in her dark living room, clutching an old photo of her family. Matt's arm around her, their two children smiling in his lap. The image pierced her. She remembered the promises they'd made. No secrets, no lies, forever. Somewhere between chasing excitement and demanding freedom, she had lost sight of what mattered most. She wiped her tears and whispered, "I have to find them." The next morning she began searching, calling every friend, visiting old acquaintances, checking social media. Matt had vanished completely. His profiles were deleted, his phone number disconnected. Finally, she drove 3 hours to his mother's town again. This time she found the gate open. She stepped out of the car, heart pounding. "Claire?" she called softly, walking toward the porch. The door opened slowly. Matt's mother appeared, calm, composed, eyes cold. "Kendra?" Kendra clasped her hands together. "Please, Claire, I just need to see my children. I made a mistake. I'll do anything." Claire's gaze didn't soften. "You didn't just make a mistake, Kendra. You shattered a home. My son begged you for honesty and loyalty, and you gave him humiliation instead." Tears spilled down Kendra's face. "Please, I didn't mean—" Claire interrupted sharply. "He warned you in silence. You thought his quiet was weakness. But sometimes silence is strength." Kendra dropped to her knees. "Tell him I'm sorry. Tell him I'll do anything to make it right." Claire looked at her for a long time, then said, "He doesn't want revenge, Kendra. He just wants peace. He and the children are safe. That's all you need to know." Kendra sobbed uncontrollably, clutching the porch railing. Claire's tone softened just slightly. "He still prays for you, but don't expect him to return. He's done living in a world where love is tested like a game." As Kendra walked back to her car, her vision blurred through tears. Matt wasn't angry. That was what hurt the most. He was simply done. Driving home, she whispered to herself, "He didn't leave because he stopped loving me. He left because I stopped respecting love." That night she sat alone in her empty house, the silence louder than ever. And for the first time she finally understood the true cost of what she'd asked for, freedom without responsibility. 6 months later, the house that once echoed with laughter was now stripped bare. The furniture had been sold, the pictures removed, the walls faded from sunlight and silence. Kendra now lived in a small one-bedroom apartment downtown, the kind of place where noise from neighbors reminded her she was still alive. Her days blurred together, job hunting in the morning, rejection emails by noon, and long, lonely evenings spent scrolling through photos of the past. Everywhere she looked, there were reminders of the life she'd thrown away. Birthday cards from her children, Matt's old texts, their wedding video stored on her phone. She couldn't bring herself to delete any of it. Sometimes she'd drive past the park where they used to take the kids. She'd sit in her car watching families play, her heart breaking as she imagined Matt pushing their daughter on the swing, or lifting their son onto his shoulders. She wondered if they still mentioned her, or if Matt had erased her completely from their memories. One evening she bumped into Diane again. Her friend's eyes softened when she saw her. "Kendra, you look tired." Kendra smiled weakly. "That's what regret does to you." Diane hesitated, then said quietly, "I saw Matt last week. He looked happy, healthier than I've ever seen him. He's living in Seattle now." Kendra's chest tightened. Did he say anything about me?" Diane shook her head. "No, but he's doing great. The kids, too." Kendra forced a smile. "That's good. They deserve that." But when she got home, she broke down again. Not from anger, not from loneliness, but from the realization that he really had moved on. Weeks later, she received an envelope in the mail. It was from Matt's lawyer, the divorce papers. Inside was also a handwritten note. "Kendra, I forgive you. Not because you asked, but because I need peace. I hope someday you'll find yours too." Her tears fell onto the paper, blurring the ink. It wasn't bitterness that hurt anymore. It was finality. That night she sat on her balcony, looking out over the glowing city. Life went on below her, cars moving, people laughing, lights blinking. The world hadn't stopped for her heartbreak. For the first time, she whispered the truth out loud. "I destroyed my own happiness." She thought about how easily she'd confused freedom for fulfillment, how she'd mistaken excitement for love and pride for strength. Now she finally understood. Love wasn't about thrill. It was about endurance, sacrifice, and respect. Kendra wiped her tears and whispered into the cold night air, "Matt, if you ever hear this, I'm sorry. I really am." Months rolled by. The pain didn't vanish, but it softened, like a wound slowly forming a scar. Kendra began to rebuild piece by piece. She found a job at a small marketing agency and poured herself into the work. The pay was modest, but for the first time she earned something on her own terms. Every morning she stood before her mirror, repeating softly, "You are learning." It wasn't confidence yet. It was survival. Her apartment, once quiet and empty, began to change. A potted plant sat by the window. New curtains brightened the room. She'd even begun to smile again. Small, uncertain smiles that reminded her she was still human. One Sunday afternoon, she was cleaning out old boxes when she stumbled upon a sealed envelope labeled, "To my future self." She recognized her own handwriting, written years ago during a marriage retreat with Matt. She hesitated, then tore it open. The letter read, "Dear Kendra, if you're reading this, I hope you still believe in love. I hope you still choose kindness even when it's hard. And I hope you remember that your husband is not your enemy. He's your teammate. Don't forget why you started this journey together." Her hands trembled. She sat down on the floor, clutching the letter to her chest as tears rolled down her face. That was the woman she used to be. Hopeful, forgiving, full of light. Somewhere along the line, ambition and pride had buried her. Later that night, she opened her laptop and typed a message she'd rehearsed in her heart for months. "Matt, I don't expect a reply. I just want to say thank you for forgiving me, for being a good father, and for once loving me at my worst. I hope life treats you kindly. Kendra." She hovered over the send button for a long time before finally clicking it. It felt like letting go of a boulder she'd carried too long. The next morning, she woke up lighter. She made coffee, opened her curtains, and smiled at the sunrise. She wasn't healed, not completely, but she was free. In that moment, she realized something profound. Forgiveness wasn't just about others. It was about freeing yourself from the prison of your own guilt. Weeks later, she began volunteering at a local women's center, counseling others who were struggling in their marriages. She didn't preach. She just listened, really listened. And in their stories, she found fragments of her own healing. Kendra had lost a marriage, yes, but she'd found something else. Wisdom. A year passed. The seasons changed and so did Kendra. Her life had become simple but meaningful. Work, volunteering, long evening walks, and quiet moments of reflection. She no longer checked her phone expecting messages from Matt. The ache had faded into something softer. Gratitude mixed with regret. One Saturday morning, while helping at a relationship seminar for couples, Kendra was asked to speak. She hesitated at first, then stepped onto the small stage. "I once destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me," she began. "Not because I stopped loving him, but because I stopped respecting what love meant." The room went silent. I thought excitement was more important than peace. I thought freedom meant doing whatever I wanted, even if it hurt the person who loved me most. But love without accountability isn't love at all. By the time she finished, a few people were in tears. When she stepped down, a woman hugged her and whispered, "Thank you. You just saved my marriage." That night, as Kendra walked home, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Purpose. A few weeks later, she received a message in her inbox. Her heart skipped when she saw the name. Matt. "Kendra, I didn't plan to write this, but your message last year, it meant something. I saw a video of your talk online. It was powerful. I'm remarried now, but I want you to know I'm proud of the woman you've become. Thank you for growing. I hope you're happy too." Kendra read it twice. There was no bitterness, no hidden emotion, just peace. She smiled through her tears. He had moved on, truly. And now, finally, she could too. A week later, at a cafe near her office, she met someone new, Daniel, a quiet architect with kind eyes and a calm demeanor. They started as friends, sharing conversations over coffee and laughter that felt unforced. He didn't know her past at first, but when she eventually told him, he simply said, "We all have chapters we're not proud of. What matters is how the story ends." For the first time, Kendra didn't feel judged. She felt seen. As months went by, she realized that love could be gentle. It didn't need chaos to feel alive. She was cautious, patient, and more self-aware. And though she knew she could never undo the past, she finally believed she deserved a future. One evening, standing by her window watching the city lights, Kendra whispered, "Thank you, God, for the second chance. Not at love, but at becoming better." Her story wasn't one of perfect redemption. It was one of human imperfection, painful lessons, and quiet growth.